destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
What's going on? You are listening to This Week in Geek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as we trek through the most unusual of times. I'm joined by my compatriot, my brother from another mother from the lovely city of Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
Alex, the producer.
And it always feels good to be back here, right here on This Week in Geek.net, one of Canada's longest running podcasts at over 19 years, 10,000 hours of audio from what I've been told. And now we're on radio, currently on CFRU 93.3 here in Guelph Community Radio.
There's plenty of episodes or interviews and stuff that aren't active anymore that you can't really listen to, or maybe have been spliced together with things. But there's over 1,400 active episodes on all of our feeds and on YouTube. So
yeah, that's pretty nutty just to think we've been around that long.
It's probably closer to 1,600 to 1,800 for the episodes that aren't there. And the ones that aren't there are literally stuff that's lost. It's stuff that we lost either in a server change or whatever, but it's like ancient stuff.
Yeah,
so
I'm not even sure whether certain episodes still exist on a hard drive.
We have a few random shows that were like projects that went for a bit but didn't go too far, like Birdman's Toy Box.
Yeah, or Birdman's Boombox, stuff like that. Yeah,
some things that we might eventually revisit in classic, like, quote unquote classic revisitations or something. But as far as like regular stuff, it's like 1,400 and something. So
yeah, it's pretty insane in terms of stuff that we actually have. So yeah, we got a jam-packed show for you today. As we most often do, we typically talk about what has been going on in our personal lives over the course of the last week. I myself have been kind of taking it easy in certain ways. In my professional life, not so much. Professional life, this coming week, coming up on Friday, I have a meeting with the University of Guelph, and I am seriously looking into going to law school. So that's going to be a thing. Hopefully graduating before I'm 50. We'll see. And that's mostly just so I can advance some of the advocacy work that I do here in Guelph, and just making sure people who have disability, Indigenous, and other poverty-related issues have free and accessible representation. And I like to give access in spaces where I don't often get a chance to go to, which has been a very wonderful community response. Over the course of the last month, I was literally attending a number of municipal events, and I had people ask me every single time after the event was over, it's like, so do you have like a legal background? And I'm like, I rules lawyer in D&D. It's about the closest thing I've got for you. And they're like, you should really consider legal. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I had an event that happened in my life where I recently transitioned out of a position. And I was like, you know what? I really like the idea of policy and governance. So let's see what happens. And this one, I'm not going to do this, but I've had more than a few people ask me over the course of the last 2 weeks, am I running for mayor? Am I running for council? No.
You are best used when focused on a specific issue. You know how the mayor's office would be like pulling you left and right, and you'd be pulling your hair out.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? I'm not going to rule out counselor in like 10, 15 years, but
exactly. But like pick a lane, pick a topic, and go with it. That's what you do best.
Yeah, like I'm better hyper focused. Plus, I want the experience under my belt before I do anything involving this. Like, it's complicated. I mean, it
You,
feels
al-
really
you
cool that
also
people
have
have
to
so
be
much faith in me. So,
you also have to be good at math when you're a mayor. People don't realize that ultimately it's your final job to balance the budget for the city.
yeah, like it's going to be interesting to see how I handle the math prep for law school. But I've got the meeting with my advisors
there's
on
there's
on Friday, so we'll see.
there's less math there than there is at being in charge of a municipal budget.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, it's exciting that people think that of me, but pretty cool. Other than that, I've been revisiting the Resident Evil franchise. I've been playing through Resident Evil Remake 2 and 3 because they're the most accessible to me right now. I'll probably play through Resident Evil 4 when I get a chance, and then I might go through 7 and 8 because it's been a number of years since I've had a chance to really experience those, and the last time I touched them, I wasn't exactly in a great place. So now I'm in a much healthier mental place. I'm like, you know what? Let's see, and maybe I can do insanity on either of them because I actually platinumed Resident Evil 9 last
I
week.
I tried because part of my thing promised you to try genres and games I wouldn't normally play. I
Hmm.
tried. I hate them. I hate them so much. I don't like the puzzle aspect. I don't like puzzles where I'm constantly afraid I'm going to get killed.
Yeah,
I want unlimited time with unlimited fear to solve puzzles.
I'd say Resident Evil 9 scratches that. There are no ones that are the only puzzle that is time critical, and it's not even a puzzle really, it's just you have to keep moving or you get fed into a meat grinder literally. That's the only puzzle I can think that requires any time. Resident Evil 2, there are annoying puzzles. I'm looking at you, chess. Resident
I
Evil
would
3,
I would
they have
rather
a clock tower? No,
I would
they
rather be at your place
Mhm,
and I would rather like not like you obviously know how to beat them, but like I'd
mhm.
rather when a brand new one comes out, be with you and be the like navigator on the side helping solve the puzzles while you are the one in control of things where I don't feel the anxiety.
See, you would be great as a co-pilot for speed runs. If you had the puzzle solutions up for me, like, okay,
Or
cool, I'm taking this corridor, we've got 5 minutes to make it here, and I've got this much ammo, we have to go.
or a second set of eyes, and then also I'd have a pad of paper where I could draw a map of here's the order you're going in.
Yeah, like one of the things I was very surprised, I was able to do a speed run on Resident Evil 9 to get one of the trophies called Speed Demon and to get extra completion points. You have to finish the game in under 4 hours. My time, I did have bonus weapons unlocked, but I had to do it on a lower difficulty just because I just finished my insanity run and fuck that. 'Cause I did that with no heals. Fuck that. I think my final time was 3 hours and 9 minutes. So I did okay, but I did see some pathing issues where I skipped a lot of the optional side content, which means I didn't get certain weapon upgrades. But yeah, it was a really fun experience, and just going back and looking, especially Resident Evil 2 and 3, which have such strong ties to Resident Evil 9, I'm noticing so many little things that they added in as Easter eggs, as moments that are meant to be remembered, and it's really, really good. And just seeing how much that character has evolved, Leon, since 1998 when the original Resident Evil 2 came out. And obviously when 2004's Resident Evil 4 came out exclusively for the GameCube, then it got the port to the PlayStation like 8 months later. And I was surprised how little the Resident Evil franchise sold on the GameCube. That was supposed to be the big exclusivity deal with Capcom back then, but copies of certain Resident Evil games on the GameCube are ludicrously expensive on the
You,
secondary market.
do you want me to chime in with my probably ignorant opinion as to why? It
GameCube
was still
sales weren't there.
it's not just the GameCube sales weren't there. If you look at the percentage attach, it's way lower per console than what is on other platforms.
Hmm.
And it was they had the stink of the N64 and of being viewed as the children's console.
Yeah, like there was one channel I
They
watched.
they were M-rated games on a console that teenagers, except if they were like super Smash Brothers fans, didn't own.
Yeah, like I looked, there was a video I watched. I want to say the channel was called either Den of Evil or Ink Ribbon. I want to give proper attribution here. And they said at the GameCube's attach rate at one point, it sold 5 million plus consoles, whereas the PlayStation 2 was 55 plus million consoles. So certain copies. So when Resident Evil Remake got put out exclusively for a long time, was on the GameCube. That was supposed to be a big deal. Then they got Resident Evil 0, and then eventually we got Resident Evil 4. Then they got ports of Resident Evil 2, 3, and Code Veronica X. And those ones will run you about $100 a piece on the GameCube. I've owned both of them. Resident Evil Code Veronica did not sell well, less than 33,000 copies, and it'll run you close to 200 or 300 plus.
Well, take a look. Like it's not the same company, but Konami was in a similar space. Take a look at what Twin Snakes cost now.
Yeah, I've owned that and I've sold that copy before. I think I paid $100 initially when I bought it, and that was in 2010 or 11. When I sold my copy, I think I sold it for $300 or $400 about 5 years later. And yeah,
loose disc is about 100 Canadian.
Yeah, and it's a really good game. Do I think it's worth $100? Actually, yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah,
I hope it gets ported.
And I think unlike the other Silicon Knights game, because did Silicon Knights do that one? No, it was somebody else.
Yeah, they did that, Too Human, and Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem.
That's right. They did the 2 GameCube games, and I believe Eternal Darkness was Nintendo printed a lot more because that was first party.
Yes.
So even though that game didn't sell well, there's a lot of copies out there because it was like new old stock for a long time. So like the initial print one was a lot more than like Metal Gear Solid. They went a little wacky with the cutscenes, making it even more goofy, right? So
it was like, because that's when bullet time was like the new hotness. So there's a lot of Snake jumping around doing Matrix shit.
A lot of crane kicks and stuff. But like, okay, just to sort of keep it on track with the whole, like, I'm not playing Resident Evil because it was like I noped out, not just because it's scary, but I didn't like the controls. And other people have said I should probably try 7.
If I were to recommend a modern Resident Evil game, I would recommend the remake.
I was told 7 or the newest one.
Yes, Requiem 100%, but unless you have the connection to Resident Evil 2 and 3, it won't mean as much.
I should just watch playthroughs or watch like of the early stuff that with tank controls.
Yeah.
And then move on.
Yeah, because honestly, if you were going to do the series new, start with Remake from the early 2000s, because the tank controls are
That's
more.
That's what I tried, and I hated it. That's what I turned off.
I
played it on PC in back settings, and I was like, well, I'm lost and bored, and everything's trying to kill me. I hate this.
I always find that so peculiar about you, because I figured the action moment to moment, but you also have to be careful with like encounter management. Because if you kill everything, then you're going to run into problems later.
The controls were just the controls and cameras. I hate it, and the puzzles are too esoteric. I need a little bit of direction. You might be coming at it from eyes of somebody who's beaten it 5 or 10 times.
Oh yeah.
And when I look at it as a new player, I'm like, this gives me zero interest.
I don't know.
Boring.
Like I said, I always find that so strange, because even as a child, I didn't have any help on the puzzles. I had to figure out a lot of these out on my own.
I don't mind puzzles I have to figure out. I don't like how drab the graphics are. It's so dank. There's no color. I like adventure puzzles where there's environmental puzzles to solve. Okay, I would be much more of a Myst guy than survival horror puzzles.
Yeah, I would say Resident Evil 2 and 3 are where the formula was refined. The modern remakes are good. Like, if you want color, Resident Evil 2 and 3, 100% for sure. Resident Evil 4, not so
Yeah.
much because of the Spanish countryside and it does fit a certain color palette. But
Like,
yeah,
I
I would
own
definitely
here's the
recommend
crazy
9.
thing. Between me and my brother, we own every one of them. Like, because I got, like, when I bought 2 different video cards, they came with remakes.
Mhm.
Like, 2, I think it's the, 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, they just came with my video card, so I own them, and I'm just like, I have no interest in playing them. But I did go, and I have to beat one of the games in a franchise I've never beaten. I beat Metal Gear Solid Delta.
What'd you think about that? That was a fun
Uh,
experience. I loved it.
it was fun, but I don't understand why people like his storytelling. I
I'd say
think it has
3 is where
I
it's
think it
got
has
best.
I think it has a terribly nonsensical and stupid plot.
Yo, you are so young.
It
Wait till
it
you get to the
it's
other games and it gets even
oh,
more nuts.
I watched every other okay, I watched every other explanation and videos, and I went like, okay, Kojima's like a 6-year-old that was allowed to write. It's like Axe Cop. It's he writes Americana without understanding the culture. You know what I mean? It's like it's like, what if we tried to write in Japanese for a Japanese audience going, I know what Japan is all about. And I looked at him like, I get the I get the goofiness appeal. I don't get when people are like, these are the best games ever made. I'm like, I don't feel it at all. And I get where maybe it's coming from is, oh, it was so different and video game wacky, and it's like, I sort of get it. I think it's that people have hyped up that series so much that when I played it, I'm like, this is it.
Yeah, I would say hype definitely plays a large part of the influence because I'd say Metal Gear Solid 3 definitely sets the baseline. It's the
And
least wacky in terms, well, I guess maybe the Cobra unit, but when you start getting into the Phantom Pain, when you move into the modern era stuff with the Shadow Moses incident, the big shell.
it's so convoluted, and it's like, who's betraying who and who's a part of this, and it's all clothes. I was like, okay, I get it, but it's like, you know what I mean? I feel like it could have been streamlined a little bit in the storytelling without it was everything in the kitchen sink thrown in, which again, I don't have, it's not like I hated it. I don't, it's not like Resident Evil where I didn't like it. I was just like, I didn't get the hype. And I will have one hot take that I might take some flack for. I don't think I like David Hayter's voice.
Well, he also has gotten older. I will say that.
Uh, in listening to it and talking, I'm like, oh, like I like his right, like him as a writer for movies and screenwriter and stuff is great, but I'm like, oh, this is like marginally better than the bad anime dubs of the 90s.
I will say I think Hader's best performance was in Snake Eater. Metal Gear Solid 4, he's got some good moments, like, overall.
Yeah, the
Kiefer
other actors
Sutherland.
got better by 4 when I was watching all the videos, and I did okay. 4 was the one I played the closest. Like I got about 50% through that when I first got my PS3.
Mhm.
And then I it was after like the second boss, and like I tranquilized the boss, and then it turns out because I tranquilized them, I'm able to do like a sexy photo shoot when they die, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Um, and I was like, nope, I'm done. I didn't like it. And I think I sold the game to a friend, but so I've gotten halfway through that before I beat 3 now, or Delta, whatever. I enjoyed some parts. I do like the anime goofiness of, like, you know, the was it the end's eyeballs gouging out, bulging out, and moving around and ridiculous. I will say one thing: I actually audibly laughed out loud because they were trying to play it kind of serious with like mystical powers, at the beginning,
Mhm.
until you met Revolver Ocelot the first time, and he just goes meow meow.
Oh, yeah. Wow! Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
little
and
goofy.
puts his paws out, and I went, "The fuck is this?" And then it was all downhill goofy from there.
Yeah, and you ain't met anybody yet. Wait until you meet Vulcan, Raven, Sniper Wolf,
So I mean, okay,
Fat
I'm not
Man.
gonna.
Yeah.
I can't hate on it. I'm just like, I was surprised because 4 was a little more serious, except for the weird, sexy photo shoots when you beat the bosses. And,
Yeah, the Beauty of the Beast.
um, like outside of that, and like the weird trauma dumps they do in that game for those bosses, it was more serious. And
You
I remember I thought,
you
but
might
like
have more fun with Resident Evil, or not Resident Evil, sorry, Metal Gear Solid Revengeance, which is the sword one,
that
starring
that's
Raiden.
I started playing a bit of that and had fun, but I'm not saying I didn't have fun. I wanted to beat at least one. I went, okay, well, Delta has the most quality of life
Mhm.
updates, and
Yes.
and I really did enjoy, like, there are certain direction aspects of it where, like, when you're climbing up the giant long ladder out of the ground,
And it
and
plays
it's like,
the theme song, which is really cool.
and it plays like a James Bond style theme song, and that, like, I love aspects of it, but after playing it, I'm like, because I had played Death Stranding, that was really the only Kojima game I played to near completion for
Mhm,
review,
mhm.
and I'm like, this is ridiculous, and it's like, oh, he's always been like this.
Oh, yeah, whereas Death Stranding, I can't stand. I hated it. Um,
I hate the gameplay. It's like, oh, you gotta no.
the
People
storyline's
are like,
interesting.
you're allowed. The thing is, people try to get mad and say, like, you're not allowed to not like it because it's different. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm allowed to not like it because I don't like the controls.
Yeah.
I don't like at a fundamental level what the game is, but I think it has a cool story.
Mhm. Yeah.
I I think that actually has a cooler story than Metal Gear. But because Metal Gear is a lot of rehashing of like tropes over and over and over again. But
Mhm.
again, there's some cool aspects. Also, one final hot take is from when I played and saw the videos, I think like Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 were overrated with Otacon. It's like half of the games are just like listening to the radio and having Kojima talk about how many, American movies he likes. And it's like, that's not a game. That's
Christopher
not even.
Randolph as Otacon. I will say this for him, because a lot of the conversations you have over the radio, part of the codec story, are it moves the plot along. But when you start getting into the fun Easter eggy conversations, like if you pick up a certain item or you're looking at something, be like, "Hey, Snake, did you realize that is a such and such, or do you realize the history of this?" That's when you really get into the fun stuff of
Yeah,
Otacon.
but you know what I mean? It's a little bit too much with the, like, you're talking to the, like, with the medic or whatever, and it's like, "Hey, have you ever seen Godzilla?" And blah, blah, blah. I don't need you to tell me the plot of a movie from 50 years ago and think that
Yeah.
it's cool doing that.
Now, some
That
of those are actually updated, which is kind of fun. Some of those conversations were
Well,
updated
yeah,
for
like they
Solid
said,
Delta.
who know, like, well, if you want to see it in the original Japanese, you got to go to Japan. Maybe they'll put it out in the original language in 50 years, which is what they did.
Yeah.
Right. So things like that. So I get it. And it's cute. I like those. I like the ideas behind it. I think the execution's a little sloppy. Um, but I will give one thing. It is definitely a unique style. Like, as Kojima has his style, as much as like Suda 51 has his style.
Mhm.
Like, there's certain things. So I get it. And I think he should be allowed to make his stuff. And I really did enjoy aspects like of the game, but I was also surprised, even though originally it was on PS2, how much backtracking there is in Metal Gear games, and how it's just like two environments you keep going back through every single time.
Yeah, like when you got like your speed run pathing down, you don't have to go back as much. I mean, like I can rip through these games pretty fast because I know my like
Well,
pathing.
but you know what I mean? Like you basically have the one forest, the one facility, and then there's like and then there's the mountain base in Delta 3, and
Mhm.
all you're doing every single mission is going back through the same ones over and over again.
True, but because you're also remaking a PS2 game, so they're not expanding it; they're just remaking
Yeah, but I think it's maybe because like I'm used to like Final
huge.
Fantasy X, where
Yes,
there's like 25 different locations and they're
yes,
all unique. So I mean, I know it's different genres, but anyway, yeah. Getting back, one thing I will say that I like is I do like his attention to detail. I always liked, even as a kid, even though I didn't play it, seeing other people play it, the whole idea of having to like plug your controller in the second slot, or him reading your memory cards and that sort of stuff. I do love when they put those in when there's like metagaming, or in the case of this one, I always like checking things like when I played Deus Ex, how I could avoid something, or sequence break a game, because like I ended up uh I didn't realize. I was like, let's see if I can kill this old guy before he goes away. And I killed the end and didn't have the battle encounter with him.
Yeah, this playthrough is the only time I've actually done that encounter. When I was a kid, I did the sniper rifle because I thought it'd be funny. Hey, wait a second, I missed a fight, and
I did that, and I'm like, I'll be waiting for you, blah blah, blah. And I shot him, and he died, and I was like, okay, it's like, oh, there's no boss. I did it. I sequence broke it without, and I didn't look up anything. I played the game without looking up anything, and I ended up, I found out after that you can like get like special armors from people and stuff. I didn't get that, but anyway. But I was like, so I love that. I love that he thinks very deeply with his games. So I played that, and then the third one, I'm slowly working through GTA 5. I did the opening missions. I'm about like 2 hours in.
So you probably just did the escort mission you've done the bank or you've done the initial
bank robbery, and I got introduced to the character. Yeah. And then I basically got to his home, and then I was like, all right, I'm stopping, because I was rotating the games to try to play. But that's sort of been what I was doing the last couple of weeks. And then I also, for fun, the pixel remasters of Final Fantasy are on Xbox, and I was like, I don't have trophies or save files on Xbox and PC, so I'm doing a run through there and putting on like all the boost modes and stuff, and I'm not going for a completionist run just to beat it as quickly as possible. And I beat Final Fantasy 1 in 4.5 hours, which is normally like 12. But when you turn the encounters off until the very end and then just grind like crazy at the very end, you can actually do that.
I love it. All right, guys.
Anyway, sorry, long intro. I just figured we'd do like a check-in and talk about the games we've been playing. And I'm not trying to shit on those franchises. They're just not for me.
Yeah, they're just not your stuff. However, speaking of things that we got to talk about today, so like I said, we have a hot show for you this week. We're going to have reviews of Toxic Commando, which is going to be coming from me. That's going to be coming to us from Saber Interactive, and I think Focus Home, if I'm not mistaken. Basically, John Carpenter returns to the world of video gaming, but was it worth the wait? And what have we got coming up from you, Alex?
I have a documentary movie / it's a documentary about a failed documentary.
Interesting.
on the Zodiac Killer, called the Zodiac Killer Project from Music Box Films. Basically, it is the director tried to make a documentary back in the day about the Zodiac Killer, and it fell apart. Now he's done a documentary about why it fell apart. And then the other thing I've got here is I've got, what's the game? I got to make sure I pronounce it correctly, because it's one of those Etrange Overlord. Ugh, not strange, Etrange.
Well,
that's a game from NISAmerica.
All right, so I guess we're going to go to that review first. So we're going to go to the unpronounceable game. I'm sure Alex would do that right.
The one that tongue twists me every time, because it's not strange, it's Etrange.
So we will be back on this Estrange show right here on thisweekingeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. We'll be back right after this.
Alex, the producer here, and our friends over at NISAmerica sent a review copy of Etrange Overlord, which, depending on when this review comes out, should be either out now or very soon. I've had a chance to play this on the Nintendo Switch. It's available on other platforms as well. If you're interested, it's also available on PS4, PS5, and PC. Now, it comes with Japanese language only for the audio spoken language. I would have liked to have seen a dub for this, but this seems to happen a lot with, like, the medium AA budget games, where not necessarily sure if it's going to sell enough probably to get or warrant a fully English dub. And then sometimes you find games where they have an English dub and they don't need it. This, I think, personally would have benefited, but the text isn't available in English, French, or if you're playing it on PC, there's also a Japanese option for that. But, for consoles, you're looking at Japanese language spoken with the options for English or French for the text. And I'm assuming the French part is literally because of Quebec, because usually if it's a game released in the States, it either has Spanish as an option or just English, or it has more than 2 languages. The fact that it's got French on there, that's telling me that's a homegrown Canada thing we got going on here, where it's a requirement. But anyway, I obviously played it in English because my French is no bueno, which isn't French either. But yeah, I can read a little French, but not a whole game. Anyway, I did have a chance to play a fair bit here. It is it's a one-player game, but you do have there is a multiplayer feature in part of it. You can have up to 4 people playing. Basic plot is, or basic storyline without spoiling anything. It's an action RPG where you're playing the daughter of a duke, and she's in hell for something she didn't do. There is a scenario written by people from Disgaea, and then also I believe the character designs are from the character designer of Re:Zero, that franchise, which is pretty cool. It's an action RPG. You can eat food to boost your stats and tackle different, more difficult things. You can send your party out to hunt for treasure, then upgrade your items when they come back to you. There is different win conditions for different, like there's escort missions, there's capture points, delivering items. You can command the NPC companions with you by adjusting different priorities for them. It's pretty sweet. Now, the multiplayer mode is a separate thing from the main story. So if that's something you're looking for, it is a single-player game when it comes to the storyline, and then there's other modes you can play. Now, while I played it on Switch, specifically I played the Switch version on my Switch 2, the performance was fine. It's the kind of art style that lends itself well, especially to like a Switch 2, which is powerful enough to handle Switch 1 and Switch 2. This would have been a game that would be perfectly fine on Switch 1, but playing it on my Switch 2, graphically, it holds up. It's a similar style. If you like the NISAmerica style of like the Disgaea type games, it's that cartoony look, and it does scale quite well. Audio-wise, handled pretty well as well. If you do end up playing it on PC, while I didn't have a PC code to play, I can say this. Minimum requirements are not too heavy. It does recommend that you have an i3 11th gen, but specifically like a mobile, like laptop 11th gen CPU. It does require Windows 11, likely some anti-cheat or something involved there, because usually they'll say Windows 10, but this specifically says Windows 11, so there's something involved there, probably some driver compatibility. But it only needs a minimum of Intel UHD graphics. You don't need dedicated graphics to play this, and that's at 720p with VSync on, so you're likely getting 720p 60 at that, but that's actually kind of amazing for a major I would say it's a major release, even though it's a AA title, and needing integrated graphics to play it, which is sweet. That's something really cool to see for a 3D game. So obviously if you have like a cheaper lower end Intel GPU, like an Arc A310, even like a 4 gig GPU, one of the ones that's actually like $100 versus like thousands of dollars you're paying for video cards now, you could be able to play this easily at 1080p, no problem, with probably close to max settings. The recommended settings, if for a really higher end experience, you end up jumping up to a Ryzen 7 5700X, which is pretty standard for that. Like, you're not going to get by with my Ryzen 5 3600 anymore. It's 6 years old. But if you have like a 11th or 12th gen Intel, you should probably have no trouble, and same with the Ryzen 7 from that series. And then you jump from 8 gigs of RAM minimum to 16 because it just needs more, to process everything. And then they recommend a 1650, again, a fairly modest video card. So if you have a video card from the last like 5-6 years, you'll be able to basically play this at 4K. So that out of the way. I will mention one final thing. I had some fun with it. I've not actually completed everything in this, but I did have a pretty good time, and I'll probably jump back into it and play it here and there. It's good. It's not going to win over like brand new RPG fans. If you're a brand new RPG person, maybe watch a couple videos on it. If you like this style of action RPG, I think you're going to have a pretty decent time with it. I encountered some bugs, some performance hitches and that, but that's just to note that there is going to be a day one patch for PS4, PS5, and Switch, which is the versions that one of the versions I have. And the day one patch, by the time you play this, if you're buying it at retail, there should be fixes to different text issues, display issues, some localization stuff, as well as just some UI improvement performances and little hitches here and there. So everything should be cleaned up by then. That is something that the publisher wanted to note, saying, hey, we've got patches going. Obviously, if you played it on PC, you'd be, reviewers for PC would be getting quicker build updates. But for consoles, even then, performance issues, playing it on my Switch 2, it just sort of powered through, so it'll probably only get smoother from there. So yeah, I'll put a link in the description for the show if you're interested. I think it's one of those neater titles that might end up flying under the radar.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek.
News.
Welcome back to This Week in Geek. My name is Mike the Birdman. That is Alex the producer. It's time to talk about the things that happened around the planet this week as we enter the Nerd News Network. And our first story comes courtesy of Entertainment Weekly. Find out what became of Jason, Kimberly, Trini, and Zach, and Billy after high school. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic book relaunch. Basically, the series has been relaunched from the original creator Boom Studios. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers leads a comic book relaunch with the original Power Rangers returning as adults. EW's exclusive first look reveals what the former teenagers with attitude made of themselves after leaving high school. 2 other Ranger comics will arrive this summer, as well as including a Old Man Tommy tale. A new era of Power Rangers is about to commence, and it heavily involves the original 5, though they're not the same teenagers with attitude anymore. Boom Studio begins a hard relaunch of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with New York Times bestselling Marguerite Bennett, who also wrote Batwoman, and veteran artist Andrew Lee Griffith, who did Transformers. Entertainment Weekly can exclusively reveal. The continuity starts fresh in this new story involving Jason the Red Ranger, Kimberly Pink, Trini Yellow, Zach the Black Ranger, and Billy the Blue Ranger returning as adults 10 years after retiring their morphers and going their separate ways. So what became of them after leaving Angel Grove High? Which I think is kind of cool. And then there's another story we're just going to kind of combine into both here, which kind of reveals some of the designs in this. But it says there will be some noticeable differences in the timeline compared to the characters we met in the original TV series. As revealed in EW's exclusive first look inside the new pages from Bennett and Griffith, Jason became a martial arts instructor who enjoys working with kids. Kimberly, however, remains in a strange place. After following her athletic passions to become a world-renowned gymnast, her dream career is coming to an end in her mid-20s, with all her friends are only just starting to achieve their dreams. Zach and Trini are both in public service. The veteran Black Ranger now works as a public defender, fighting for those who can't fight for themselves, while the former Yellow Ranger became a diplomat. More details on her job will be revealed in issue number 1. As for Billy, he stayed behind in Angel Grove to train future generations of Rangers. There's now a need for the OG superhero quintet to reunite after all this time. Billy opens a portal to transport its old friends back to the command center to deal with a threat that is both familiar. Rita Rabosa, described as a, quote, new terrifying form of an old familiar foe. And then there's yet another story that kind of ties into this as well, where they talk about Rita. In this time, the original Rita Repulsa still went to become the Mystic Mother, a plot point from the Power Rangers Mystic Force. This new Rita is not the same figure. Miss Rabosa, who is more cruel and vindictive than Miss Repulsa, needs something from the Power Rangers in order to complete her secret mission. And what of Tommy, the original Green Ranger? The first issue will tease the character's presence somewhere off in the background. He was meant to walk through Billy's portal with the others, but it didn't go as planned. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 1 will arrive this June 3rd with a main cover design by Jim Chung and variants by artists including Griffiths, Miguel Micardo, Taryn Clark, Francesco Telseth, Annie Wu, Sydney Boo, and more. Philip Sevi will also draw the interiors for the series. This will just be the start of a new Power Rangers era coming this summer. Also in the works are Power Rangers Unlimited comic series, pairing fan favorite Rangers from across all eras in new adventures, as well as Power Rangers Green, a quote old man Tommy tale set in the far future with Tommy Oliver as the last of the Power Rangers. What Tommy's doing in the periphery of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers will also impact the future glimpsed in Power Rangers Green. I think this sounds cool. Old Man Tommy is something they kind of did. And there was a series from Boom Studios called Soul the Dragon, where we talk about Tommy's daughter, and I think she inherits the dragon coin, but then eventually Tommy has to come back, become like Black Dino Thunder, the White Ranger, and I think he even gets the Green Ranger coin back temporarily. It's weird, but it's fun. It's a fun read.
Comics are weird. You could just preface it with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is cool because I always wondered what was going to happen with Boom Studios, and it's funny, sad for me because I've got a weird connection to the Power Rangers comics. So many years ago, Boom had their own app for downloading comics, and I bought all my comics through that app. And then the company that ran the app went out of business, and I lost the access to all my Power Rangers comics up through issue 50. Eventually, I was able to contact, I think it was like Dark Horse Comics, or I can't remember what comic book company I
Didn't it start
contacted.
with like an end? It was like next something or
Something like that. And it was a really weird help desk that I had to go. I think it was like Zendesk or something. I don't know. I went through it and eventually I was given credits on like a different store. I was like, okay, that's cool, but that's not my Power Rangers comics. So eventually I was able to get them all back through various efforts. And the Boom Studios comics run was really, really good. I never did finish the end of the Death Ranger arc, which led into the relaunch. And then obviously when we covered the story, I think it was last year when the series ended, I didn't expect there to be a relaunch, especially with Power Rangers sort of in a weird state right now, with the toys going over to Hasbro with or wait, no, they're with Playmates now, sorry. And then with the series Super Sentai ending in Japan for the first time in like 50 years. I'm curious to see where this goes. I don't know whether I can afford these new comics. I guess I'm going to have to give up something. But I'm in. I love the idea of Old Man Tommy. I just don't fall into the tropes of Old Man Logan when it's all dark and depressing. Like, and even with the Power Rangers Unlimited, yes, it's a chance to do stuff like Shattered Grid if you want to have, I don't know, Blue Turbo team up with like Pink Mystic Force. You could do that, or
what I
SPD
want.
Blue or something.
I want either a comic or something where it's all of the like comic relief sidekicks that have to become an entire Rangers team.
There was actually
Like
in
like Alpha, and then what's the stupid dog from the was it the time travel one that had the
I don't
dog
remember.
ranger? The
Unfortunately,
there was one that was like a dog general or some shit that was in charge of them.
oh, SPD, Doggy Kruger, terrible name, great character though.
Yes, that um Ninjor. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Was the
Indoor.
who talked like he was a few screws loose in the noggin there.
Yeah.
Ninjor them, all like basically all of those things, all of the little sidekicky joke characters,
Mm-hmm.
have them like have to save the Rangers and the morphing grid, and it's all the side characters, and like that like they need help from humans, and then the only humans they can get is Bulk and Skull or something.
Well, it's funny. Like, I think in one of the comics, I know Skull in the Shattered Grid universe becomes a Tyrannosaurus Sentry. So he actually does get morphin powers. Skull, or not Skull, I think Bulk becomes like if I remember right, in the Shattered Grid universe, he becomes a pretty effective guerrilla fighter,
Well,
which is
like
kind of cool.
obviously I fell out of really watching Power Rangers after I watched up to In Space, and then my brother still watched Lost Galaxy and a couple ones after that.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember seeing like random episodes here and there, and then I started watching the Sentai stuff when I saw the fan subs. But like when we were watching, actually I don't even think some of the ones that you and I watched, I don't think they ever got like.
If they did kind of, but it was heavily edited.
Well, with the one about angels wasn't ever, and Christianity wasn't ever going to be turned into ones here, but the one with like the one where it was like all through space with all the different one, that was actually pretty good. I forget which
Mhm.
one we were watching. That wasn't Q Ranger, was it, or something?
It
Um,
was Q Ranger, which did get adapted over here, but it was so radically different. I was
oh,
like,
like massively different. Okay,
yeah, I was like,
but
this
like,
isn't the
but
same.
what was it? Was it Samurai or something where Bulk is back as like a sensei?
Yeah, there was Bulk, and I can't remember the name of Skull's nephew. Then Skull has an appearance because he's like a music producer
At the
or
very
something.
end or something. It was because in real life he was
Spike,
going to
that's it.
university or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was Bulk and Spike was Skull's cousin.
So
Yeah.
like, here's my question. So is Bulk the next most shown character in the canon outside of Tommy?
I think Bulk and Skull, yeah, they're fairly consistent in terms of their appearances because they have
Like,
appeared in each major. If it happens in Angel Grove, they get some kind of a reference.
but I mean, as far as like how many seasons, quote unquote, they're in, is Bulkin the most outside of Tommy?
I would think so, actually. Yeah,
Because
fairly certain.
he's in as many as Billy before Billy left, and then had a whole season or two again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then
So
was up in
he's
space,
in either as many or more than Tommy.
which is pretty insane. I don't know whether he shows up during Dino Thunder because that's a series I haven't watched yet. But yeah, it's pretty impressive. And even Samurai gets a lot of hate, but I'll even go on my hot take is that's got a bitchin' theme song. I think that was by N- I can't remember the composer, Gnome something or other.
It's the one that's actually okay before they started just basically ripping on the original theme song over and over and over again after
I'd
that.
say I'd say that's where this started.
It started, but it was more like it was reverential versus like just being lazy. It was like,
Mhm.
oh, because it was like an anniversary thing, Bulk's back, blah blah. Because they had that period after was it is it Last Guy or is SPD the last one that what's his name did? Wasserman.
Ron Rasserman or
Because it was he wasn't called, it was Mystic Force where he made a theme and then they didn't
they
use
didn't
it.
use it. Yes, correct.
And then after that, for like 5 or 6 of them, there's just terrible songs.
Yeah, RPM's not very good. Operation Overdrive, I think, is really lame. My favorite of the modern theme songs is probably Dino Charge, and then Ninja Steel grows on you after a while.
Like,
I found.
basically after Wasserman, they all started sounding like Beetleborgs, like goofy sounding.
I don't know. Like I said, there's a few in the modern era I'm a big fan of. Like Dino Charge, I will go to fucking war for. Ninja
Is
Steel grows on you after a
is
while.
Mystic Force the one that sounds like Outcast?
Yes, that's how a lot of
That
people
was
recognize it.
horrible.
Yeah, although it's better than the Rasserman version, if I'm going to be real with you.
Well, his was just a demo, right? It wasn't
Yeah.
a finished version.
Mhm.
And didn't he come back for the Netflix special?
Once and Forever, I think he did.
I'm pretty sure, like, I saw him doing the rounds talking about how he re-recorded the guitar and stuff for it
Mhm.
to give it a
Yeah.
sharper edge.
But yeah, I mean, that's something else I kind of hope their reference is the Netflix special with like Trini's daughter at some point. Cuz again, such a fantastic
I,
character.
I
in her.
can't believe that all of the actors that came back somehow became worse actors in their older age.
Yeah, like it's weird with like the guy who
Billy,
plays Zach.
the guy who plays Billy, he should have not come back. I can't believe he was more wooden sounding as a guy in his like 50s than he was when he was a teenager or 20s.
Mhm.
It was rough, son. Like, I know, big fan, and I was like, I gotta love this, and I was like, oh, and I also didn't like that it was like so digital camcorder looking. I ended up taking the special, DVRing it, and then adding my own filters to it to make it look like 90s 16 millimeter, Japanese third grade, you know, dubs, and it ended up looking better.
Mhm. Yeah, listen, I'm very curious to see where this all goes. I'm hoping to see Power Rangers gain more reverence as a
Yeah.
franchise. Like, if I had my wish, and this is going to be foretelling of something you'll hear in a future review, as I'm going to be doing the TMNT Magic crossover in Alex's review show you're going to hear later on this week. I'm really surprised Power Rangers has not had a crossover with Magic yet because that set would be so easy to do like Turtles.
Have they done a crossover with Turtles?
Yes, that's what we're going to be doing this week, actually. And Power Rangers has crossover with Turtles twice, but in terms of the Magic set for Turtles, let's just say they're getting a lot of money out of me.
No, what I mean is that, like, has Turtles, like, have they ever done a thing where like the Turtles get morphin powers?
Yes, Actually, they've done it twice. The Shredder gets the green dragon coin. Bebop and Rocksteady become giant mutants. The Turtle Van gets turned into a Zord. It's an interesting read, and it's I don't recall.
I mean, it's not as crazy as Archie meets the Predator, right? So
No, or Archie meets the Punisher.
or Archie meets anything.
Yeah, it's very weird, but the
But
books are actually quite cool, and they actually made action figures of
so
them.
that's
of
actually
Nightmare.
neater than I thought. Like, I still think a great beat 'em up game would be a Power Rangers and Turtles team up, like a la Battletoads Double Dragon.
Yeah, like I'm honestly kind of surprised no one has in the remake scene, because there was a thing I found this week, and someone had made a fan ROM of the X-Men game from Konami, which comes out later on this week.
Six-player one. Yeah.
6-player one, and they've hacked in other X-Men, like other different versions of Dazzler, different X-Men like
And
Iceman and Jubilee and shit like that.
not to be confused with like a Mugen title or what is it? Beats of Rage and all that. Like, it looks like a ground up remake.
Yeah, like it's really interesting, and like the fan community can also do the best work sometimes. Although, not gonna lie, when that game comes out this week, I'm gonna buy it. But anyway, let us continue on. So this next story comes courtesy of GamesRadar.com. And as they report, the earth is shaking in Hollywood as Paramount Skydance prepares to acquire Warner Brothers in a landmark deal valued at around $110 billion. Warner Brothers Games is also included, but whether or not the studio survives cost-cutting measures, remains to be seen. With Mortal Kombat, Batman, Hogwarts Legacy among the franchises on offer, Warner Brothers Games brings plenty to the table, both for regular people and in terms of shareholder value. However, cuts in the region of $5 billion are to be made across all WB as it's folded into Paramount Skydance, and video games could very well be where a significant chunk of that comes from. Quote, with Paramount now adding WB games to their arsenal, Justin Kennett, CEO of GameSquare Holdings, commented to The Wrap, they are gaining some gaming franchises that can be used to engage fans year-round with a more streamlined and vertically integrated content experience. You may like Batman standing on a rooftop at night looking over Gotham City before fighting crime in one of the best superhero games, Batman Arkham Knight. After string of flops, Batman Arkham and Hogwarts Legacy publisher tease a, quote, return to some of our biggest franchises. I also talk about Squid Game Season 2. Netflix drops out of Warner Brothers purchase after Paramount raises the offer. And sorry, some of the formatting here is a little strange. But Kenneth says that the games industry is, quote, simply a space that you need to be playing in if you are a media company trying to win the next generation of consumers. Marketing side, speak aside, games are not an avenue to be underestimated when it comes to IP. The Simpsons collab in Fortnite was the most relevant Springfield's most famous family has been in years, and the Batman Arkham games are as beloved as the Cape Crusaders films. Then you have the Lego and Mortal Kombat games, both perennial favorites. The latter has since become a successful film series, again opening up more opportunities for franchising a la The Last of Us or Fallout. Sadly, Warner Brothers Games is in a bit of a slump with 1-2 failures of Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Multiverses draining the publisher, according to industry experts. It could be up for the chop. Quote, everything that's a higher risk and half-baked and too innovative to deliver just yet are put in the freezer, and you may never see them again, said Joost van Duren, a professor of video games at NYU Stern School of Business, says of huge mergers like this. So it's not just people worrying about their jobs. There's a real ebbing of creative energy because of this. We can only wait and see what happens because the medium isn't known for such stability right now, and the home of Sub-Zero and the Joker might be next to feel the squeeze.
The only stability really is Nintendo first party. That's the only, like, it used to be Sony first party was stable and other companies, but like every company is being bought and sold. It's weird to me right now that Nintendo and Sega are the most stable companies.
Yeah, like I think when you look at WB's games, like I think they would be stupid to put a stuff like your next Batman Arkham, like Rockstar Games. Yeah, Suicide Squad sucked because you got greedy. You have to let studios like that cook.
Zaslav, when he came in, he wanted live service. Everything had to be a subscription, and he doesn't understand video games. So when they explain, what are you making? we're making a game that you charge, $70 or $80 for, and people are going to play it forever, and they're going to keep paying us maybe on average $10 every month or every other month for a battle pass.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do this for 5 to 10 years, and your $200 million investment, which is stupid, but that's what it costs to make these live service games. This $200 million or more investment will turn into $2 billion. They look at that, and as long as the return is over $1 billion for less than, half of that to put into it, they will go, okay. But if you make a single player game that only costs 100 million but only makes 600 million, they're like, it's not worth it to us.
Yeah, like,
And it's like, oh my God, but you could just make 3 games for that price and make 2.5 billion. Like, they don't get that they could just make more games that then make more money, because to them it's, we want one game on our checklist that works forever. That's all they care about.
Yeah, like, when I look at their like stable, I said having the Batman and having Batman games for kids, like there's an upcoming Lego Batman coming out at some point shortly. That's great.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat and NetherRealm. Depending on how well Mortal Kombat 2 does at theaters, I think you'll see something come out of that.
We're likely not getting a new Mortal Kombat for the next 3 to 5 years. You're likely getting a new Injustice or some sort of DC fighter. It might not be Injustice 3. It might just be a new DC fighter.
Likely, because of the way that the DC universe is now positioning itself. It's moved out of the grim, dark Zack Snyder, and the Injustice story's done. Like, if you've read the comics, you know where it ends. So for them to do a new Injustice, maybe, but I doubt it. But you're right. More than likely, probably a new DC fighter, maybe in line with their new DCU, but they probably, if they're smart, they'll do something aligned but not exact.
It will be interesting. I know that their bread and butter is like M-rated, really violent games. It would be interesting to see if NetherRealm can make a like Marvel Tokon style, not like in the art style, but like in tone and feel. Can they make a fast, upbeat, like Arc System Works type fighter?
I don't know, because Arc System Works and NetherRealm are two very different schools of fighting.
Yeah. I guess that they're probably closer to what like Killer Instinct is in the weight.
Where it's technical, but it's very fast moving. Like Arc System Works, in my experience, it's very technical in how you approach the fighting. NetherRealm, there's techniques.
NetherRealm is about weight.
Yeah, it's weight and impact, where it's basically a chess move. I counter this if you do this. I go high.
It's more in line with like Namco's Tekken stuff.
Kind of.
Except Tekken is more like, I was gonna say Tekken is more like juggling type stuff.
Yeah. Like,
so now, do you think it would be another DC versus MK sort of game, or would they try to leverage other properties that Warner owns?
If they're smart, I think that's what they should do, because I think Multiverses was an interesting idea whose team got cut into nothing.
So would it be a DC? Here's the question: would it be a DC fighter, or would it be a specific franchise fighter? Like, would it be a Batman fighting game?
I don't know, because they've got such a large roster of characters that they could do it. Like, I was a big fan of Injustice 2, and they brought in the Ninja Turtles and stuff like that, and like Hellboy. I thought that shit was really cool. But with Multiverses, it never worked properly.
Also, we're thinking maybe a little too small. They're bought by Paramount, right? And if it goes through with I know that NetherRealm was already working on a game currently. They have to be, because otherwise they would have announced, you know how those companies work. They would have announced that they were downsized and laying people off, but they haven't laid anybody off, and they've been basically quiet, meaning that they've been working on something for 2 or 3 years. Yeah. So whatever DC or whatever fighting game comes out. It might be Injustice, it might be something else, who knows? But the very next game, I still don't think the next one will be Mortal Kombat. They might do a remaster or some sort of deluxe special edition when the next consoles come out of like an expanded version of the newest current one.
Well,
But
there was talk of them doing a Mortal Kombat Collection 2 if the Legacy Collection sold
yeah,
well. And that
they
one has had complications, we'll say, across different platforms, especially when
there
it comes
needs to
to
be a
their patch.
breakthrough with Digital Eclipse's emulators. They like other companies have PSP and PS2 working. That namely the main company. It's not actually Sony. It's Implicit. Is it Implicit Designs or Implicit Games? They did an interview recently. They're the company that's been putting out all the games on PSN for Sony. You know, when you get like the PSN and or PS Plus, and they add trophies and everything. They have a working PS2 and a working PSP emulator that is like 100% accurate and has almost zero latency. Uh, One of the first things that they did was I think they were working with Namco putting out the Tekken games. So like they're working. It's just I believe they're the only company right now that has a good emulator for those games. So either Digital Eclipse would have to license somebody else's emulator or they have to catch up and do their own. Because
Yeah.
the big problem obviously with fighting games is the latency. It's not a big deal when you're putting out a JRPG that's turn based and there's like input lag because you're doing your commands, so you wouldn't even really feel it. But oh boy, are you going to feel it if you've got like half a second of lag.
Well, yeah, and even if you have rollback net code, you have to make sure you're adjusting it for online because each match is not going to be the same because the connection's not going to be the exact same. So you're spending minutes of setup
Yeah,
before you can even start a
but
proper fight.
here's my question: if if the merger happens, could the next big fighting game from NetherRealm be a Paramount property?
Hmm. You know what? It's always been a dream of mine. You could
Star Trek, the
easily,
fighting game, no.
well, Transformers would work really well,
But they're
depending on
not. But
how
they
you
don't
did.
own Transformers. That's Hasbro.
They could collaborate if they wanted to, my guess is.
What I think is if you might want to look at like, is there a big property that Paramount owns?
Ninja
That
Turtles is one.
that's what I'm thinking. Could it be?
The Avatar game is still being made because I think
See,
because that had
see,
the beta last year.
yeah, like I think maybe MK versus Turtles is too dark
Yeah,
because like we know that the last Ronin is coming, and if that still hasn't been canceled, and we're talking like that's like 5 or 6 years deep in development. We'll see how that sells because we haven't even seen any gameplay yet for that game.
yeah.
But you know, I could see a DC versus Turtles.
I think if they wanted to do a dedicated Turtles fighting game,
Like a
because
brand new one and not like a terrible
Smash
Konami
Up.
one.
Yeah, well, the Konami one was okay. Surprisingly, it actually is well respected.
I
Fighting game.
played it on the NES, dude.
Oh, that yeah, that's a
because
miracle that game even.
because weirdly my Jumbo Video had it to rent.
Yeah, that's rare as shit.
I should
But
have bought it
you really should have.
or just not returned it because
I mean,
the $40 or $50 they would have charged me would have been worth it because isn't that one of the rarest and like isn't it like the second last game released outside of it was like that and Wario's Woods in like
I think so.
94 95.
Yep, it was one of the last Nintendo games released in North America. I mean, if I had to do a Turtles fighting game, I would actually base it upon what I can't remember. Was it Spike Chunsoft who did Sparking Zero? Dragon Ball?
Uh, that would be Namco. Namco does all of it because they own
Okay.
it.
Okay. I would do Sparking Zero Turtles. And that means you get versions from 87, comic book 2003, 2012, Rise and whatever.
The
Because
gameplay would be more fun if the art and gameplay was done by like in the ArcSys DB Fighters style. But
yeah, like as long as it's bright, colorful, and you have different versions of the turtles, different versions of the bad guys, because like you could play as Fly Baxter Stockman, or you can play as Baxter Stockman in his like mech suit from 2012. You want to play as Spider Bites, cool. You want to play as a Triceraton soldier, neat. An Utom, awesome. I've got you covered. That could really work, especially since they're trying to make Ninja Turtles a thing again. Because there's the Seth Rogen movie that's going to happen in a couple of years. There's, I think that movie got canceled, but my guess is if the game sells well, it'll still happen. I think there's possibilities here. Like Mortal Kombat, I don't think's ever truly going to go away. It's too much of a moneymaker franchise. The DC games, I think they're going to be very selective. You're not going to get like Poison Ivy's farming simulator, but
you'd get that before you get a lot of others.
yeah, I mean, like, I think what I'd like to see them do personally is do smaller versions of some of their products. I think the Batman Telltale game was fantastic.
They should be open to letting smaller independents make AA titles for them to fill the gaps where they fund it. It's under the Warner Games umbrella, but then they have like Annapurna make, a detective game, maybe not with Batman, but like one of the lesser characters, similar to what Konami's doing. Konami's having like all these different studios make Silent Hill games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Annapurna and like other companies all on like medium budgets that are higher than those studios could do on their own. They couldn't necessarily justify $10 or $15 million budget on their own, maybe 1 million, but certainly less risk than like Konami trying to spin up their own studio and doing it in-house, right? So you could do that with a bunch of smaller titles. Do an adventure title, do a racing game for some reason, do a kart racer. You could do all these things and have these smaller companies make the games so that we don't feel the big 7-year gaps between these giant titles that we've been feeling.
Like, for example, like outside of Batman and Kill the Justice League, I guess maybe the Arkham games, like
they have Hogwarts Legacy, which was a massive seller despite the controversy around it. It was one of the biggest sellers. I think it outsold Call of Duty. I think
it did very well.
I think it was the largest selling game of that year, like surprisingly. And not surprisingly, just because like the backlash, obviously there's going to be backlash back and forth because of the creator, but it was that it had legs. It kept selling after the initial, and I believe the sequel is in doubt. Like there's talk of them not funding it. And it's like, why? It made so much money. But like so there's that. They have that franchise that they can plumb. But again, more with Paramount. I think what would be interesting is if NetherRealm could make a, like there's been like Nicktoons fighting, have them do like a whole bunch of Paramount CBS Nicktoons stuff.
Yeah.
And make it a teen rated, maybe not like E for everybody goofy, but like you could do a pretty fun fighter that doesn't have to have gore but just has the weight of their stuff behind it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this Avatar: The Last Airbender game. I think that's going to be really cool, especially with like Korra and
there's
all
Avatar,
that shit.
There's the Invincible one. There's a lot of interesting, fighters that are outside of like the big 3 or 4 franchises coming out now.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be nice to try to specialize in something that isn't Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat.
And as for the other studios that Warner has, I mean, I get a feeling that they're gonna give is it Rocksteady that makes the main
Rocksteady.
one?
Yes.
They're gonna let them do one more single player, and if it doesn't meet the critical and sales standards, they're done. They're probably going to greenlight because they'll be like, okay, it was the live service was a wash. It didn't work for you. It was against your strengths. It was suit saturated. We'll let you do on a smaller budget, not small like tiny, but like a slightly smaller budget. We'll let you do one more, and then we'll market it like it's a return to form. And if it doesn't sell, you're fucking done. We already know, was it Montreal was shut down, or no,
Mhm.
or is this, it's still around, but
Reduced staff, I
like a
think,
skeleton. Yeah, like they're probably going to be relegated to just doing small titles,
or
from
DLC.
or DLC. Um, we thought that Traveler's Tales was gone, right? They're the ones that
Mhm.
did the Lego stuff, but they're obviously back because they're still whatever studio is making. I think it's TT. It's still making. Uh, the new Lego Batman. But like, isn't that pretty much it for them then? They only have the 2 or 3 studios left.
I think so. I mean, and NetherRealm. So it's like,
And
I don't
NetherRealm,
know, man.
yeah. So like maybe the smart move would be to plumb, again, maybe get a third studio or something. Plumb the old Midway archive. They own the Midway library. Midway had a ton of arcade games and franchises they could plumb through.
I think a fun return to Narc might be kind of fun, but I don't know how well you want to
Yeah.
do with all the killing
Was
drug dealer
was
sort
it
of thing. But
was it Midway that did Binary Domain, or that might have been, no, that might have been Koei before they merged with Tecmo.
Smash TV could be a fun kind of remake.
Yeah, like,
Uh,
you know what? They could bring back some of the arcade racers. Did they do San Francisco Rush?
yes,
Um,
I do
it,
believe. I do
it was
believe.
either them or Atari. But like, we know that like Raw Thrills is the arcade division that took over, but like, and they make the cruising game, so they have the cruising. That's the one thing they've got. But like, basically every other Midway title is up for grabs. When was the last time you had a big mother trucker game? Or 18 wheeler? Like, you could do a lot of interesting games that are lower budget, make some arcade
Wave
racers.
Racer,
You,
Hydro Thunder.
Hydro Thunder. There's one. Fill the gap. People have been asking for Wave Race, and if Nintendo's not going to do it, bring back Hydro Thunder.
I mean, if I had to pick a franchise that was off the beaten path that could happen, I would have Smash TV, and I would do it in the style of Doom 2016, a little slower, but that's what I would do. First person, have it ridiculous, have it written by someone who
What?
knows the material.
What, you don't want War Gods or Mace the Dark Age or Rift? Was that them too?
See, I could see War Gods working as DLC characters or
or
Biofreaks or
or
something
like,
like
what if
that.
they're like, hey, we're gonna do like all of our old dead franchises that we tried. We're gonna make a new fighting game with all of them in it.
I don't know. Honestly, if you said Mortal Kombat has a hidden like Biofreaks character, I'd be down for that. I really
Which
would.
I don't remember if I know for sure War Gods was theirs,
War
because that
Gods, yeah.
War
Like,
Gods was made in the same engine as MK4. So
mhm. Yeah, like I would be down for that because I think that'd be really. Or you know what, Primal Rage, bring that shit back. I'd be fine with that.
I mean,
Because there was like a version of like Primal Rage 3 or something that was someone found an arcade PCB. It's playable, but it's clearly in like pre-alpha or
because
some shit like that.
Midway, it's kind of sad. Like they had so many good games, and I feel like once NetherRealm is what survived, and they only took like 2 games and worked with them since then.
Yeah.
What-
I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, ultimately, I'm not a huge fan of this merger, mostly because I think what it means for certain divisions and certain news channels, but we're not getting into that today.
No,
We'll have
yeah,
to wait
like
and
I,
see
I
what
just
happens.
a brief look at like what the last games that they made were.
Yeah.
Like, looking at it, obviously more. I'm looking at MK3 onward, so it's like War Gods. Well, they're not making NBA Hang Time again. Um,
Yeah.
but like Area 51, their light gun shooters are kind of hard to make nowadays. I know that there are
Mhm.
options. This was it the
House
Sinten
of the
gun?
Dead sequels.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, but Rampage, they could bring back Rampage.
Yep. And I think they tried like 2017
You know
for
what?
something
Rampage
along the movie.
is one of the few game franchises that would be interesting in VR,
Yeah.
where you're
Yeah.
you're you're
Rampage
first
could work.
first person. You're one of the monsters climbing the buildings and wrecking them.
Yeah, that could be
Um,
really kind of fun, actually.
they also made the okay, no, they published a lot of games, but yeah, they were more of a publisher. Chopper Attack was one of theirs. Um, and they did a lot of like ports, but here's one. Do you remember Carnival? Light
I
gun rail
do,
rail
actually.
shooter.
I
Uh,
do.
and it was San Francisco Rush. So that's a franchise they could bring back because the other studio has the rights to the other stuff. Twisted Edge was theirs, and then of course they're not going to make sports. But you're right, Hydro Thunder. So like there's a few franchises. They don't have to make just fight. I don't understand why NetherRealm only makes fighting games, because originally, like, that studio didn't only just make fighting games, right?
I don't know.
They were
Honestly,
Midway. They were Midway. Like Midway made a lot of things. So I guess
I
maybe
think you could even do something cute on the Switch too, if you wanted to do like a reinvention of root beer tapper. I think you could have some fun with that, honestly.
yeah, you know, but yeah, looking at all the stuff that they have, it looks like, you know, obviously there's racing games, but the main one that I think could make a comeback because of how popular, and it would be a good game if Warner wanted to make more games targeting children too, not just the Lego stuff, it would be the Rampage series.
Yeah.
You know, at the very least, have like Digital Eclipse or somebody do a partnership and do a collection of all the Rampage games, because there's like 5 or 6 of them at least, right? So you could do that.
Yeah, I do agree. All right, guys, so we're going to take a brief break here on this week in Geek, and we're going to take a listen to one of my reviews. This is going to be fighting the Sludge God in John Carpenter's Toxic Commando, reviewed on the PlayStation 5. We'll be back, guys, right after this. Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. Once again, I'm here to talk to you about something we got sent for review from our friends over at Saber Interactive and Focus Entertainment. I'm talking about the shooter on PlayStation 5, John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. What is this? Well, this is 80s ridiculousness wrapped up in a co-op zombie shooter that's kind of like the best parts of Left 4 Dead, with like an open world objective based thing, but it's Left 4 Dead with some Call of Duty stuff built into it. Such as the story may be, you play a group of mercenaries who has been hired by a mysterious benefactor to recover a package and deliver it to him in this kind of quarantine zone. After the world kind of experienced kind of an energy crisis, they were looking for new, clean ways. There was this big drill developed, and unfortunately they awakened, you know, earth-shattering cosmic evil known as the Sludge God. So, you and your friends somehow get superpowers, because why not? And, well, it's up to you to stop this evil sludge entity and his army of undead zombie monsters before, well, humanity's ticket is proverbially punched. Not very deep in the story department, let's admit that straight out the gate. But, yeah, so this is a 4-player co-op shooter that can be played with friends or can be played solo. However, that being said, the game is limited to online only. In fact, during my review period for this, I had to step away for a moment, and I got AFK'd, losing all the progress in my mission. And yeah, that admittedly did put a pretty bad taste in my mouth. The shooting here is competent, I can say that. Like, you'll fight hordes of undead infected, and that's something that Saber Interactive is really good at when it comes to building like these hordes, like bad guys. I think they run on something called the Swarm engine or something. So not as visually impressive as, say, something like World War Z or something like that, but, you know, still pretty impressive seeing a wall of bad guys come at you. There is a Call of Duty-like progression system when it comes to weapons. I only chose to specialize in 2. I specialized in a heavy revolver, and I specialized in their version of the MP5. Basically, I decided to go total 80s action hero. I played as, I think, the Chinese woman named Astrid. I just thought she looked cool. And a lot of this game's unlocks are tied to cosmetics, although when it comes to leveling up your weapons, you'll upgrade different attachments like different clips, different shoulder accessories, laser sights, grips, foregrips, that sort of thing. You get 1 primary weapon, 1 secondary weapon, and 1 heavy weapon, from like rail cannons to rocket launchers to grenade launchers, heavy machine guns, that sort of thing. Basically, your staple for shooters, more or less. And you do get a class-based system. There's like a defender, a medic, a strike class, and a class that uses like a drone as like its abilities. I will say I played this in single player only. I don't like playing with people that I don't know. That's just the way I play, unless it's like a shooter like Overwatch or Call of Duty. It's just not my bag. I don't like to communicate with people. I'm a weird isolationist loser. Let me be. However, I did have some fun, but not enough. And I feel like that may be a little unfair to this, because there is a Seasons Pass coming for this. I just don't see what type of content it's really going to add. Maybe some new missions, maybe some new weapons, that sort of thing that will eventually come down the pipeline. Now, that being said, if you had a group of 4 people, or at least 2 people you like and the rest of your team's filled out with bots, that could be okay. I could see this actually being kind of a good time. This is something you're going to rip through in like a weekend. Like, the storyline is nowhere near Shakespearean in depth. So don't go in expecting They Live or The Thing or anything remotely super intense. The music, as mentioned, John Carpenter, some of it's good. I don't mind it. The voices in this are obnoxious, but I think that's the point, and that's fine. Just nobody terribly memorable. One thing I will say, though, is I like how they've integrated vehicles into this, particularly if you have an ambulance that can heal you and your team, or if you have a truck that has a winch on it, you can use it to open containers around the map or pull yourself if you get stuck in mud. I really like that. I wish more video games had more environmental sections with vehicles. I think that's fascinating. I'm actually rather impressed by that. However, gameplay itself, it's nothing you haven't seen before. I would argue in some ways Left 4 Dead did it better and earlier. Here, having different tiers of weapons, because eventually as you use the weapons, they will get better and better. As you collect things around the map, like sludge crystals, you will unlock different skins for your weapons, different cosmetics for your character, but a lot of it feels like unnecessary busy work. Although that being said, there was Twitch drops for this that you could find different streamers doing stuff. I did engage with those, and I did get all the Twitch drops in the period of about 2 hours. So if you're into that sort of thing, you can do it. They do have a service that you can connect an account to, and you will get extra weapon charms and like a weapon skin and like I think a title for your kind of player card as well. So my final verdict for John Carpenter's Toxic Commandos: if you can get a few friends to commit to playing this with you, then yeah, sure. I think you might have some fun here. I might suggest you wait for a bit of a price drop, especially when you find out what's going to be contained in the Seasons Pass. However, if you jump on now, make sure you get your Twitch drops. Those Twitch drops are easy to get. You're going to fire and forget it, set up your computer to get it, and you can walk away. I hope this game finds its community. I like the fact that John Carpenter's involved, as he's an old nerd like us, but that's how it is. So that's going to be my recommendation from us here at thisweekingeek.net.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Welcome back to thisweekingeek.net. It is now time to visit the world of the strange, the unusual, and more often than not, the downright bizarre. This is the weird news, only on thisweekingeek.net. Once again, I am Mike the Birdman, joined with Alice the producer, and our first story comes courtesy of Kotaku.com. Australia's Online Safety Act 2021 came into force on March 9th, 2026. From that date, adult websites serving Australian users are required to verify every visitor is 18 or older before granting access. The verification options on the table were a government-issued photo ID, a biometric facial age scan, or credit card details run through a third-party age check provider. Pornhub's parent company AO looked at these options and chose none of them. It blocked all Australian IP addresses. Instead, RedTube, YouPorn, Tube8 did the same. Not every adult website went that route. Quote, Xhamster and XNXX kept their doors open and implemented the required ID age guide. AO did. The result, the Australians visiting Pornhub now see a block screen. No age verification offer, no workaround on the site itself. The same call to AO made in Louisiana, Texas, and several other U.S. states that passed similar laws blocked the material rather than build the system.
What I can say to this is, they should just have a picture that pops up and it just says "Get F mate," but not with us.
Well, it's so strange because like them asking for this information, I get it. I do. You want to verify that you're of age to view this material. Important. I get it.
The hard part is how do you ever actually do that without violating privacy?
Well, yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you secure this data?
Would you have to scan the person's face with a webcam to prove their age?
Well, we saw with the recent Discord age verification, people were using deep fake AI pictures to beat it. So the biometric face scan doesn't work. People were holding up pictures on their iPads and scanning those.
Would the argument be to access pornography, you have to contact the government and have them send you
ID card?
Like a thumbprint reader? Would you have to register with the government saying, "Hey, I am an adult of legal age. I would like access to adult websites, and here's my thumbprint."
Yeah, it's so crazy because then you have to ask, what happens to that data? Who's managing it? And I know when it came to the Discord stuff, I'm gonna bring this up again. There was a security breach. And a lot of that material became accessible on the dark web. And a lot of people are saying, well, now I'm going to ditch Discord and go elsewhere. We chose not to because this is how we record our podcast. And it's honestly just the most accessible platform for us right now. But we're like, guys, But even then, they tried to implement the age verification if you're on 18 plus servers.
We also weren't ever going to be affected because
we don't have age-gated stuff.
We made our profile 6 years ago, and I think it was, if you had, was it more than 2 years of time on there, it wasn't going to hit you or something. And it was really, I think, and none of the servers that we're on are 18 plus anyway.
Yeah, all the servers I'm a part of are role-playing game focused. They may be focused on some video games like Call of Duty, Pokemon, and some stuff for work.
I'm on a couple that are where I've for a press for publishers where I've been invited to a press only one for reviewing, and it's not we even talk on there. It's only whenever that company will have a new game come out, they make a new room that they'll then invite you into, and it's to ask technical questions, or if you not hey, you're a game reviewer who's too stupid to figure out the game. It'll literally be hey, I've encountered a thing. Is this a bug, or is there something I'm missing, because I want to be able to complete the game for review. Sometimes I've had a few where it's the problem is so esoteric and weird that they've been oh, our game testers and our QA team didn't catch that, and I'll be is it a weird one-off thing? So that's why I'm on some of those, and it's not for anybody listening, it's not the reviewers are all colluding we're gonna give the review this more. It's not that. It's usually just hey, here's where you can ask questions of the dev team. Here's where you can also perform, and you can do interviews and stuff through it. So that's what I'm usually on. I'm barely on it outside of a couple of other, a couple of servers, and that's it. But as far as age gating it, you know what I think they should do? Instead of photo ID and all this stuff, they should do it old school PC game age gating, on Leisure Suit Larry and other games. They should ask you a bunch of questions that nobody under the age of 30 will understand. and that and give you a time. No, give you a time limit. You have 10 seconds or 20 seconds to type in the answer so that it's not enough time for them to Google or chat GPT it for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And like in those old games, they were questions like who shot JR? And it's like, I'm younger than when that episode of Dallas aired, but I'm old enough to know it's part of the adult lexicon of like facts. It's like, but it could literally be things like that, or like, where's the, and you have to put in beef.
Yeah, like I don't see
have a list of 10 random old people trivia questions that you'd only find in like the bathroom readers, and if you can't answer it quick enough, you don't need that porn.
like there are parts of this where I see where they want to go, and I think the one thing about a credit card, I can see that being almost, well, it is and it isn't. What I'm trying to get at is that's financial discrimination because not everyone has access to a credit card. Again, I get it. It's a good way, but it's like, is your access to adult predicate on your age or your financial upward movement? Third-party bioscan, again, I don't like that data existing. Government issued photo ID, as you mentioned, there's privacy concerns, data concerns. What do you do?
The only way it will ever really work, is not at the government level. It would be if Microsoft, and Apple, and somehow if the Linux kernel consortium, whatever they're calling it that makes it, if they all agreed so that when you buy a computer, like if it's being bought for a minor, it has to be set up with a child account that at the OS level cannot access them. Like basically, if you make a an account for children on your computer, your family computer, that they are fully nannied out and they cannot access the websites, period.
Now, what is the crime? Is there a penalty? Let's say I'm junior and I'm trying to access something. Does anything happen to?
No,
or just block?
It's just like at school when you try to access porn at school and it just doesn't go there. Error 404 cannot resolve. And not that it even like alerts the parents, just those pages don't load because on this account, basically those IP addresses, all they have to do is detect, is the user in Windows and the user in Mac or in Linux, is this flagged as an account for a minor? Yes, doesn't go there. Period. And you can do that like optionally. You could install software to do that yourself, but there hasn't been an incentive from the OS makers to do that. And obviously it takes buy-in from the parents, making sure that all the accounts on the computers for their kids are children's accounts, because then if the child then maybe buys a computer or builds a computer or figures it out and installs a version of Windows or Mac and then puts an adult account in there, then it's on the parents and on the kids. It's the onus is on them for not following the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is, if you give people the options to do it, they won't do it. You have to at the OS level force it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like nanny software back in the day. It's not as sophisticated as it would be now. I do believe that there's age gating stuff, I think, in Linux now. There are versions of Linux out there. Now, obviously, there's many, many flavors of Linux that'll do it, but there are versions, I believe, that are making child accounts, basically child Linux, where, to install stuff. It's not just that it pops up with asking for a password. It'll notify the parent on their phone. Person is on the child account is trying to do something they're not supposed to.
Yeah,
and you could do stuff like that, but I guess what Pornhub and all these people are doing, if they're doing that, they're expecting, okay, I guess those people can then use a VPN to access it. And
I was just about to ask that.
And I mean, then you're I guess you then have to take it up with your local government if they want to be like, hey, because if you're using a VPN and you're using encryption, it is actually illegal in most countries for the government to break through your encryption to see what you're doing. Right?
It's like, 'cause I know there was something that I'm trying to remember the specifics, but the details may be fuzzy on this. But I know there were several U.S. states that they're proposing that VPNs become illegal because of that, because they can't break your encryption. They're not allowed to spy on you.
And I mean, they can try that and then see what happens, because they also need VPN. The government uses VPNs when they're like obfuscating what they're doing to spy on people. So if they made it illegal, it would be very interesting to see if the ISPs and the service providers that are like, hey, okay, well, I guess you can't do it either.
Yeah, like this is going to be a lot messier than what it
Like,
needs to be.
as it stands, people use VPNs and encryption and stuff and secure FTP to like share files, or you do like people doing it like copyrighted material. And the reason that people get away with it is actually more highly illegal for the government to prove that you're doing that than it is to, like, you get hit with like copyright infringement. Depending on where you are, it's usually a civil matter. I believe in Canada they have made it more of a criminal thing, because surprise, surprise, in Quebec, almost every movie screener or movie cam copy that was on the net from like 2001 to like 2015 was actually filmed in Quebec. People were just setting them up in because you know why they did that? Because remember, in Quebec, most of the movies are shown in French, or they have a dub of French, and the English language versions are usually like an empty theater when they're showing them, right? So people would set up cameras and film it. So most of the piracy of like cam copies came from there. And because of that, the federal government really cracked down. I think it's about 10, 15 years ago, and they made it a criminal offense to do that, where it wasn't before. It was a civil matter, right? But that being said, it is actually a criminal code offense to break somebody's privacy and encryption here. So it's those weird gray areas, and I feel like Pornhub and all these sites, you're probably going to see things like them popping up saying, "Hey, you cannot access this in the country, but if you use a VPN, we can't stop you."
Yeah, like I'd be very curious to see if governments are going to pressure VPNs. Like if they're accessing the site, they can do anything else they want except
No.
this. So, I don't know.
The solution there, and I know it's like we don't want to price things out, but you know, if you can't afford a VPN of like $7 or $10 a month to access your free porn in your country, maybe you should then lobby your government to change their laws. But the solution would be to make VPNs require a credit card in Australia to sign up.
Yeah,
Because
that's
if they,
certainly one way to do it.
because you can, it's like, okay, no free VPNs can access it, only paid VPNs that are like $10 or whatever, because that would require a credit card, which would require very likely an adult to have signed off on it. And if that's the solution, but again, it's interesting that they went that route.
Well,
And it's also interesting to wonder how much money in business will they actually lose. Like, if you lose America, you lose a lot of money.
well, here's my question.
Australia is similar in size to us, and I remember one time Pornhub came out with the numbers, and I believe it was Canada viewed porn like 2 or 3 times as much as Australians did.
Well, here's my question.
Is the joke and argument maybe that Australians are so good looking that they don't need porn?
Maybe. Well, here's my question. So, if you can only access certain adult websites and the access is being blocked at the IP level, what's to stop me from going to Reddit and going to the adult image boards there? Yes, that's a lot more work, but that's just as much free access. Because if someone embeds a link, could that work?
They would no, because it would go with the root of what's hosting the media.
Okay.
So if it's an image or a clip that's less than, I don't know, however many megs that they allow on their server, it would probably work. But you would probably find that Reddit would then go, Australia is blocked from adults things there, because they'd be afraid of having Reddit be shut down completely in their country.
Yeah, because like I'm thinking like there's ways around this, but I don't know how you block that.
The way around it is, outside of using a VPN, will be forcing people to go back to piracy.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to be the end result.
What you will find is private, that's either at an IP, it'll be word of mouth spread. You'll have a torrent site open up that is just for Australia, and it's just a mirror torrent site of all these porn, streaming sites.
I have a feeling privacy lawyers and data advocates will be fighting this in some capacity.
I don't think Australia is very good at consumer protection. I think this is going to stand.
Well,
remember, they're the ones that are also thinking about banning cell phones for anybody under the age of 17.
yeah, that's true. Or social media accounts or something like that.
And
Yeah.
I believe it's social media under 17 or 16. I believe it's also cell phones under that. They've already banned. I don't believe you can have any cell phones in high schools. You're not allowed to even bring them.
I
So
don't know.
their experiment, and they're also banning gambling in games. Like they're the experiment to see if it'll work for the EU and Canada, and states won't ever go with it. But I have a feeling that it will stand, because remember, out of all of the Western highly developed nations, democratic nations, they have the strictest censorship laws out of anything for movies and games. Remember that most games that come out here and either have heavily censored versions there or don't come out at all.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
like you remember back in the day how you couldn't have like Nazi stuff in games in Germany, but like they would censor like the blood out of stuff and censor entire things out of in Australia completely. Or how many movies have had like an Australian cut, which is basically a stripped down version. Like for years you couldn't see the uncut version of RoboCop there.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a story we're going to keep an eye on. Like I said, I'm very curious to see how the law and advocacy intersect with this, but we'll wait and see. So our next story comes courtesy of the BBC, but also has been covered by multiple outlets this week. U.S. rapper Afro Man has defeated 7 sheriff's deputies. This is so interesting. In a court case that...
For those that don't remember him or don't know him, he's the because I got high, because I got high, because I got high. He had that song, and I think he had one more that I know of in Canada. I don't remember, but I remember he had 2 hits here, and he was an interesting. I don't want to say like he was like the rapper clown, like he was very flamboyant, very out there. As a kid, it was like people thought he was kind of goofy, and it's like, you know what? And I remember thinking like, I wonder how his career is going to go. He's released tons of albums, but he only ever really had the 1 or 2 hits. And now he's like my personal hero.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting what this guy did. So, in a court case, after they sued him for releasing songs and videos that mocked them in a raid they carried out on his home, the officers broke down the musician's door in 2022 as part of a drug and kidnapping operations, but the raid didn't lead to any charges. Afro Man, best known for his 2000 hit song Because I Got High, responded by using home security footage in viral videos that ridiculed the deputies. His video for the song Lemon Pound Cake was inspired by a deputy apparently eyeing a cake in his kitchen, while another video attributed personal and sexual transgressions to the officers. They sued him for defamation, but a jury has sided with the colorful rapper after a 3-day trial. "We did it, America! Yeah, we did it! Freedom of speech," Afro Man yelled outside the Ohio court, surrounded by supporters, in a clip posted to social media after the verdict. Real name Joseph Foreman, the musician gave evidence wearing a red, white, and blue U.S. themed suit. Court reporter must have had fun on that day.
It's basically he looks like you remember when Apollo Creed came out in Rocky IV?
Yeah, in the ridiculous
like that, but a heavier set band in the most patriotic, like over the top. You'd almost think like MAGA, like Trump rally wearing suit, and the big ass afro and sunglasses. And there are like court documents. You know how they usually draw it? It's like usually like kind of like penciled in, mostly brown.
Yeah.
No, the court artist completely filled in the color to make it look awesome.
Yeah, it looks really great. Real name Joseph Foreman. The musician gave evidence wearing a red, white, and blue themed suit. Quote, "The whole raid was a mistake," he told the court. "All of this is their fault. If they hadn't wrongly raided my house, there would be no lawsuit. I would not have known their names. They would not be on my home surveillance system. There would be no songs, nothing." Afterman argued he had a constitutional right to criticize and ridicule public officials attempt to silence criticism. The deputies requested $3.9 million in damages for, quote, humiliation, ridicule, mental distress, embarrassment, and loss of reputation. Afterman released songs including one that featured graphic and unfounded suggestions about Deputy Lisa Phillips' sexuality. Sergeant Randy Walters said his child had been humiliated at school over Afterman's post and had come home afterwards in tears. The deputy's lawyer, Robert Kingler, told the court that the rapper had, quote, perpetuated lies intentionally about his clients. Quote, even if someone does something to you that hurt you, you think is wrong, like a search warrant execution you think is unfair, that doesn't justify telling intentional lies designed to hurt people, he said. Afterman released an entire album in 2023 about the incident, calling it Lemon Pound Cake. Well, the title song, it gets so much better. While
the music video is brilliant, so low budget and hilarious.
Well, yeah, because it's literally taken from the home security footage. It's insane.
It's recreations mixed with actual footage.
Yeah, like the article goes on like this. So I've seen a lot of the courtroom coverage of this. I followed a lot of the.
It was a kangaroo court clown case. Like, not to mention, basically the judge was almost like jaw dropped when realizing they're suing, saying that they lost reputation and loss of revenue and all this stuff. At least one, if not more, of the people, including the woman that was ridiculed and was seen crying, left the job, moved to another town, got a higher paying police position. How can you be suing for saying that you lost money when your new position is a higher position, paid more? And then the other argument is, wait, you were so inept at your job, you got promoted.
Well, one of the other things that came out about this, so when the police raided Afroman's property, they took cash, and it's often assumed that because you have cash on premises, they must be the proceeds of crime. Now, Afterman had said, no, I played a show recently. I haven't taken this money to the bank. So when the money was counted and returned after multiple recounts, $400 was still missing. And he kept saying, fuck you, I'm getting my money. So as part of the court videos that I've seen, Afroman had did a song about a guy that Afroman had said, I cheated on your wife with you. And the court lawyers were asking this guy, so did Afroman cheat on your wife with Mr. Foreman? I don't know. Are you saying that he did such and such with her? I don't know. And just the tears and the ridiculous, like, guys, you brought this on yourself. You had no charges. The evidence did not stack up to lead to this raid. You wanted to harass someone, and you fucking
stole his money, ate his food.
Yeah, like, it's ridiculous.
There's video of them going through his fridge and just eating his food.
Well, the one video or the one song about Officer Lemon Pound Cake, literally, it's this larger gentleman, and again, not going to fat shame the guy, but he's walking by with his gun drawn, and his eyes just follow the pound cake as he's walking out of the kitchen. I'm like, dude, no. And the fact that they trashed his house, they broke his door, scared this guy's kids. Like, no, you had no right to be there. You had your search warrants turned up. Nothing.
It was nothing. It was not even the right tip. It was just, and it was horribly executed. And
it was harassment.
He showed up dressed like a clown to clown show them.
And he did in a marvelous legal takedown of these guys. I mean,
because they got high.
I mean, if you want to see a really good legal analysis of this, go watch Legal Eagles video on this. But
they've got one out. That'll be good.
It's really good. And again, from my limited legal expertise, Jesus Christ, you guys really stepped in it this time.
And I mean, it's Ohio. You don't know what they're going to get away with doing the cops, but also, like, illegal search warrant. I don't know how it works. I don't know. They're kind of lucky he didn't, like, stand his ground.
Well, yeah, like, there's just so much about here where Afterman could have went a lot harder than what he did.
He's not suing. He wasn't suing them. They're suing him.
Yeah, because honestly, he could have turned this around on them.
He could have been like, well, okay, what was your evidence?
Yeah.
What was, what was the grounds for you coming in? he should have countersued for the cost of the cake.
Oh, that would have been funny. But yeah, like,
honestly, I want my legal fees and $10.95 on top of that. Why? For the cake.
You know what would be funny? if somehow he gets nominated for a Grammy. But this was 2023, but that would have been funny.
No, like, but he was kind of a novelty rapper, but like,
Oh, always.
but you know what, dude's my
Wait,
hero, man.
I think he was in Guelph last year. He was. I remember this.
Yeah, man. The dude travels. He actually tours.
Well, if he ever comes back to the area, we'll have to give him a lemon pound cake.
He's on his victory tour, his victory lap.
I hope so. I really hope he does this. Yeah. So, folks,
he's probably gonna make a song about his victory.
Oh, I hope so. I fucking hope so. So our last story this week comes courtesy of CBC.ca. 2 men accused of fathering hundreds of children banned from donating sperm in Quebec. Quebec Superior Court has temporarily barred.
Could you imagine? You find out that like it's like, oh, I donated sperm, and it could be a few. You figure maybe a few, possibly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you find out that like you fathered a town.
That's insane. So, according to this article, Quebec Superior Court has temporarily barred a man and his son from donating sperm after they were accused of fathering hundreds of children. The injunction against the 2 men will remain in effect while the wider case against them proceeds on merit. The injunction against the 2 men, they are being sued by a woman who has had 3 children using the sperm of one man and a 4th child with the genetic material of the man's son. She says the 2 men who violated their terms of their agreement, which allegedly stipulated that one man would stop donating after fathering 25 children and the other would stop after 10. The court documents state the woman, though her own research discovered that the man is linked to more than 450 children and the other one is linked to more than 160. The documents say the 2 men deny over agreeing to stop donating sperm, but admit to fathering more children than the limit which the plaintiff alleges they are subject to. The ruling dated March 18th, Justice Simon Chamberlain says the number of children conceived by the defendant far exceeds the limits recommended by experts and poses risks for those children and their family. Chamberlain said each sperm donation by the 2 men increases the prejudice against the plaintiff and her 4 children. That's insane. But yeah, it's like, I guess there's money in this. I thought that was more of a US thing, I guess. Or I guess you get money for donating material, we'll say.
I mean, donate blood, you get a cookie.
Yeah, and you get like maybe $25 or something, I guess, if it's kind of like blood.
If there's a special drive, you get like, $20 or something. Or sometimes I guess they don't really give like monetary. Sometimes it's like, I know it's always a cookie and a juice box as the minimum for a blood drive, because they have to keep your sugar level up. But I believe sometimes it'll be like Tim Hortons or somebody will sponsor it and you'll get like a $10 gift card as like and because like that way they don't have to give a monetary value to you, but then also the company that's sponsoring it, they can write it off as like a big donation for them. So like I remember that like a local blood drive here was like they were giving out like gift cards for like Sobeys, like for grocery stores, $10 or $15 if you donated blood, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like
now if you don't, it'd be funny. You donate, you go to a sperm bank and they're like, here's your gift card for, I don't know,
Sobeys or something.
The Stag Shop or something. It'd be like, is it sponsored by AdamandEve.com or something?
Well,
but like,
one of my questions is, and I genuinely don't know this, so what are the requirements for donating sperm? Like, how do you go through that checklist? Like, how do they know you don't have
I've never
conditions?
done it, but I have seen some TV shows where they talk about like the screening process is basically like, do you have any communicable diseases?
Mm-hmm.
They check to see if you have like major genetic disorders. I don't think if you've had like a transplant of any organ, you can do it. And I don't think if you're diabetic, you're able to do it either. Like if you have something that could be screened out as being like a genetic defect, they don't want it.
Yeah, and that's very valid because you don't want to pass on something that could be a problem later on for another.
I wonder how many people try to fake that depending on the clinic. Like here, I think it would probably be more regulated. Like, and Quebec, I would assume so. But like, how did they not catch on that they were? I mean, people are like, how long did it take to donate that many samples? It's like, well, it depends on how young what it's a guy and his son, right? If the son is like 20, he could probably be doing like 6 or 7 a day.
Well, like my question is like again with all this, like how was this not caught sooner? How was this not count? Like,
Well,
let's say Mr. A, we'll say, and his son,
yeah,
whenever they go into the clinic, they have to sign in. I'm going to presume that gets processed electronically. How did that not trip a sensor
like
somewhere saying
again,
this person has
if this was
donated
like
X amount of time?
if this was in the 90s, it might have still been done on paper before
Yeah,
being put in the computer, and they wouldn't have
yes,
necessarily noticed.
that's true. Yeah.
But like now, it's like, but also, I, my biggest question is, who the hell's doing this with their dad?
Yeah, that's a weird
Like, like,
bonding
hey,
activity.
hey, you want to go grab
Do you want
lunch?
to ride?
No, why don't we go? Why don't we go rub one out, Dad, and get some money for lunch?
Yeah,
Like, what the fuck? Like,
I mean,
I'm trying not to be gross, but like that is like, I think the story would be more funny if they both found out they were going to different clinics and they didn't know that they were doing that.
yeah, like there's something
Like that would
about
be funny,
so
but it
funny.
sounds like they were going together and they got banned together. And it's like, that is like, it's one thing if you're like, hey, as a family, let's go donate blood.
But as a
But like,
family, let's go donate genetic material. That's a little
yeah,
different.
yeah,
Yeah,
hey,
again,
Dad, I'll race you. Like, what the fuck?
yeah, that takes on a
Like,
whole new meaning here. Yeah,
it's all messed. It's like, what? And it's like, it's a service that I get. Obviously, it's necessary. There's people that can't
can't
procreate and they
conceive.
want to,
Yeah. Mhm.
and they can't conceive. Like, it's like, okay, I get it. Obviously, it's a service that needs to be there. Or sometimes it can be not even just for that. It could be for like medical research or something on
Yeah.
studying the sperm or whatever, even for schools and stuff.
Mhm.
I get it, but like, it how 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 like, shouldn't there be like a cap of like, hey, you can donate like 3 times a year or something?
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like, how is this not
Like
taught
like
through
it- like
clerical stuff first?
like if a clinic is like, you can come back every 3 to 6 months, and then even if there was like 3 different clinics that were run by different people, how do you rack up 400? Like,
Well,
has this guy been donating since the 80s?
well, another thing too, like, how often is this gentleman retested?
Well,
Right?
sorry, and wait, I'm just thinking, it's not even that he donated 400 times. It's 400 proven, like, he had 400 children.
Yeah, like
I
that.
mean, so he could have donated like 1,000 times.
Yeah, like that's pretty significant.
That was
Like
wild, son.
that really
I
is.
know I pick always the interesting ones from, and this time at least it was Quebec. It wasn't Florida.
Yeah. For once, we have Montreal man and not,
Because
Tampa.
if it was Florida, it would have been, man conceives 8,000 people, and you'd be like, what?
You'd be like, "Oh, well, that's Tuesday."
But like,
Uh,
doesn't this? But the reason I brought this up is, doesn't this remind you of like the pill mills, like when OxyContin was a big deal in the 90s and early 2000s, where like people were going to like 5 different doctors and getting prescriptions filled?
yeah.
That's what this, to me, that's what this sounds like. People weren't communicating that things were happening.
Yeah, like for me, when I look at this, I'm like, how does this happen in the era of modern computing? Especially with all the data that gets transmitted. Now,
Oh,
you and I have both been through the medical care system in
yeah.
Ontario, and we know every time we visit to get a prescription or we go to do anything with our, like, if you and I both need to make a doctor's appointment, for example, all our doctor's offices talk to each other for the most part. For
Well,
the most part.
and 9 or 10 years ago, nearly 10 years ago, when I had my surgery, before I went all through this process, I did go to them, and they're like, hey, if you don't have to, but we would like you to sign this. If you sign this form, it'll go to the government. The government will then go, okay, the weight loss clinic, the hospital in Guelph, your family doctor, the internist, the specialist, everybody within Ontario's medical community can then legally pull up your doctor's notes in a centralized database for doctors. Only the doctors can see. But previously, a doctor would have to, and it still kind of does, unless they've changed it in the last 10 years, a doctor has to fax another doctor to ask for permission for them to fax their records and results over.
Which is so
Where
strange.
Whereas like hospitals were not able to look at what other hospitals were doing, and it was a privacy concern. So I had to basically sign in duplicate and triplicate saying, hey, I give you permission to share my medical charts because you guys, it's all necessary for you to see. So I'm wondering if it's maybe one of those cases where not just the clinic, but maybe the people administering it, taking the samples and everything, weren't allowed to report to each other that, hey, I've also seen this person today or multiple times or something. Like, is it just a case of the eyes were blind and they weren't allowed to see you know what I mean? Like, once it's donated, they're not allowed to see it. It's like the patient's given a number and it took them forever to realize that, hey, this patient saw this number shows up like 400 times.
Yeah, but so yeah, that's probably another reasonable conclusion to make. So yeah. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the Weird News only on This Week in Geek. We got one more review coming from Alex, and we're going to take a rather interesting trip into a documentary that should have happened but didn't. But here's the final result anyway. So we'll be back, guys, right after this, only on thisweekingeek.net.
It has that thing all good true crime stories have, where it feels like a puzzle right on the verge of being solved. So even after 50 years and God knows how many suspects, you're always just one breakthrough away from unmasking the Zodiac killer. I never really imagined myself making a true crime film. But working in documentary these days, true crime just has this sort of gravitational pull. After the project fell apart, I just kept replaying all these scenes in my head. Scenes I'd never get to shoot. Mysteries I'd never have a chance to unravel. All those little familiar images from true crime. Images I'd never get to put my spin on. The cigarette perched on the ashtray. Shell casings falling in slow motion. Blood pooling on the ground. So I guess I'm just sitting here thinking about what could have been.
Alex, the producer here, and our friends over at Music Box Films have sent their latest release for us to check out, and that is Zodiac Killer Project, a film by Charlie Shackleton. This is available on Blu-ray. It's interesting because it is in a subgenre of films and documentaries where it's about a filmmaker who is making a film about trying to recover and recount the efforts of making a previous documentary on the Zodiac killer. I would say for people of our generation, like millennials and younger, if you've heard of the Zodiac killer, it's probably from the Zodiac movie, the pretty sweet movie that was like came out during the, I guess, career renaissance of Robert Downey Jr. But basically, notorious serial killer, never really was ever found out exactly who it was or solved. Lots of different theories on it. Obviously, this is what it goes into here. But the filmmaker here originally tried to put together a documentary that just never was finished. And what we have here is a pretty funny and interesting deep dive into serial killer stories and, what went right, what went wrong with the making of it. It's pretty interesting. And as far as bonus features are concerned, there is Q&A from the Chicago premiere of this, a director uncommentary track, they call it, a full B-roll reel, rejected Sundance meet and greet artist video, camera test short film, letterbox videos about paint drying, a theatrical trailer. It's in 5.1, which is interesting. In that, this is a, an interesting, it's hard to pinpoint, because usually documentaries are like mono tracks or stereo, but this is a very well done surround track of all things. But it's also in the widescreen 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio, so it's like a film documentary about the making of a documentary that never came out. It's fun that way. It runs about 90 minutes or so. The only other feature on here is it does have English subtitles if you need those, and you can turn them on. It works just fine. Solid release, something I had never heard of before. Interesting, another good eclectic release from Music Box. So I'll put a link in the description for you if you're interested. If you're a fan of like the filmmaking process and just documentaries in general, and I guess movies about documentaries, it's definitely one to check out.
And that's the kind of show it has been here on thisweekingeek.net. Once again, thank you everybody for joining us here on the site. What's coming up on the site this week? Well, Alex has a review show. You should see around midweek or so. I'm going to have some more stuff on there, including the Magic X TMNT crossover, which was pretty fun to go through. Probably have some Transformers and maybe something from Many Worlds Tavern, one of their delicious coffees or herbal teas. Also, as you heard this weekend, we celebrated Ninja Turtles with our release of the live action trilogy. Dave, Adam, and Ken took a look at the animated versions, TMNT 2007, as well as Mutant Mayhem. They talked about that this weekend. They may have recorded a RAM. I'm not sure. That's an evergreen piece anyway. So you'll hear that whenever. I know I'm recording with them at some point this week, maybe next. This week is surprisingly busy for me. What else have I got going on this week? Oh, Spellbook. This week, I think, what did we talk about? I think this week is genre design. I think we talked about space design this week, but I'm not 100% sure, because I know last week we talked with Steven from Roll for Combat, which we talked about the new book that's going to be released via Kickstarter, I do believe, which adds kind of like a Pokemon, Digimon element to your games. So we've got that to look forward to on Wednesday on the Spellbook, and I know we got a bunch of Earth versus Soup, right?
Well, we're actually caught up. I'm going to have to be editing a whole bunch. We should, fingers crossed, this Thursday, I should have episode 300 ready to go. Usually we switch things up. Might be changing the artwork slightly. Probably another color scheme. We're going to keep the basic art and just sort of change that up. I might be changing the intro, maybe adding a couple little things to it like I did every 100 episodes, so we sort of refresh it a little bit. But if depending, knock on wood, nothing happens, if we miss it, that will be up next week.
Yeah, so we will have lots of that. Speaking of things that are coming up, me and Damien are going to be making an appearance at GriffCon. So if you want to come play some RPGs with me, I will be demoing 4-hour adventures of Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition. I'm doing an adventure that is a follow-up to the episode Parallels. If you saw that during season 7 of TNG, I'm doing a...
Won't go back. I can't go back.
Exactly. You get it. You get it. I love that fact that you knew that right away.
Because that's one of my 3 favorite episodes.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
Dude, Parallels it's a conspiracy from season 1. Even though I know it's ultimately not the case, that was one of the ones that hooked me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Am I thinking it's the right name? Is it Cause and Effect?
Yep.
The one. No, not the Enterprise C one. That's yesterday's Enterprise, right?
Yeah.
Is Cause and Effect or something to that extent? It's the episode where the Romulans are blowing up the warp core and they're in a time loop.
Yes. My 3 would be Parallel for sure.
Yeah.
I really like The Offspring, where Data has his daughter Lal. And an episode that's really kind of grown on me is The Drumhead and Measure of a Man. Basically, Michael has a lot of legal drama.
My brother, who has only ever seen a few episodes with me, I was sort of doing some highlights with him. The one episode that even when he was a kid, because remember, he's born in 93, the show ended in 94, right? So he never really grew up watching it. The one episode that even as a kid, when it was on reruns on TV, he would walk by and be like, I'm bored, and he wouldn't want to see it. The one he always liked is the Royale.
Where they get trapped in the holographic... hotel.
where that alien kid traps them in the hotel, because he always liked the ideas of like that. And I also showed him some of the elementary data, that sort of stuff. He loves the hologram episodes.
They are fun, and I thoroughly
But
enjoy them.
yeah, man, parallels. I won't go back. I can't go back. And then like they shoot, and it's like he blows up. Like, what happened? It's like they were so badly damaged that we accidentally blew up their warp core.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah.
It'll be me and Damien doing that, and I'm also going to be running Aliens Evolved Edition from Free League Publishing. I'm going to be running games the entire weekend. Should be a fantastic time. Me and Damien should be doing a live show recorded. We might go up to CFRU. I have to ask if we can get permission to get up to the studio. But we're going to find out. So you'll find out more information about that as time goes on. I know me and Damien have a gift guide planned for the show, as Blair has been able to recover my giant suitcase of fun. So we're going to take a look through that, see what I think is really cool for you to have at your RPG table. And then we're going to be having discussions about games we want to play coming up in the future. So for this week in Geek.net, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman, saying, especially in these troubling times ahead, please be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time, right here on thisweekingeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.